It's a key reference for gas lab in the oil and gas sector. It's relatively small, but it showcases our capability to deliver in complex environments and also emphasizes the use of innovative use of CO2 in sustainable water management. In this initiative, CO2 isolated from flue gases is used in the remineralization step of the desalination process. So it's basically in post-treatment. After seawater has been desalinated, the resulting pure water lacks essential minerals crucial for its usability and taste: calcium, magnesium, some carbonates and bicarbonates, basically ensuring that the water is neither aggressive nor has a tendency to be scaling. The minerals added are vital for making water suitable for consumption and other uses. This approach not only enhances the quality of desalinated water, but also provides a sustainable solution to utilize carbon emissions, turning a greenhouse gas into a resource. Our project in Abu Dhabi with ADNOC exemplifies how we were able to leverage innovative CCUS technologies to address critical global issues like water scarcity and sustainability in demanding environments. Just to give you an overview of how the injection is done, we have liquid CO2 in storage vessels, which is vaporized, and then a dosing system is used to appropriately dose CO2 in the permeate or the distillate stream. Gas Lab has been at the forefront of this paradigm shift in driving CO2 utilization technology in desalination projects. We have a mirrored reference list now across the globe, which are using CO2 instead of sulfuric acid or more harmful acids. And this is driving the demand for CO2 utilization in these areas. This is especially true for the water-stressed region of the Middle East, and of course, for that applies to the Indian water-stressed regions as well. So, for example, you take up the desalination plant in Nemeli that uses CO2 for remineralization. Due to the paucity of time, we are only able to explore one of the pathways for CO2 utilization. Gas Lab has delivered similar innovation in many such pathways, including CO2 to chemicals, applications in advanced agriculture, cold chain, and firefighting. We continue to collaborate with private and institutional research partners to deliver important innovations from India for the world. Gas Lab is proud to lead these efforts, showcasing how technological advancements can align with environmental goals. Together, we can scale these solutions to enhance their impact, ensuring a sustainable future for all. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to interacting with you all in the Q&A session.
Thank you, Keshavji, for a very elaborate and enlightening presentation. So now I invite Mr. Swadhin Banerjee. He is the director of Lanzatech, and Lanzatech has developed some pioneering technologies for carbon capture. And he will be talking about the recycling carbon and adding value. So over to Mr. Swadhin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Banju. Thank you for the nice introduction. The only one correction is Director of Business Development, not the Director of...
I apologize, sorry.
Because I would be following up for various technology commercialization projects in India. And thank you for inviting me, and really honored to be here. Unfortunately, and I must thank Mr. Goyla for presenting such a nice, including some data points and also some solutions coming out of your esteemed company, Mr. Goyla. However, from my point of view, I would not be sharing any slide deck. It's a very helicopter view of CCUS, and how carbon recyclability of carbon is also so important. So first of all, greetings to all the participants from Lanzatech. Once again, thanks for the opportunity to participate in this webinar and to share our perspective on a very relevant and universal topic of today. Of course, it's an honor to be a part of this gathering because there are so many industry leaders and champions for the clean energy transition sector that we see here today. And with nearly 90% of the humanity covered these days by net zero commitments, there's a very pressing need for a radical change in how we procure, use, and dispose carbons in fuels and chemicals and in products of daily use. Just to highlight here once again is that CCUS, that we know as carbon capture, utilization, and storage.
Swadhin,
And-
could you please come a bit closer to the mic?
Is it now
Yeah, better.
more audible?
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm not able to see myself, and hence, anyway. So continuing here again, CCUS technologies are pivotal in the energy transition that we all know. The only thing is, it's very important that we must collaborate to address financial, technical, and all the political barriers that are impeding their scale-up. So it is crucial to consider the cost of inaction if we delay our efforts. Now, with a common objective of CO2 mitigation, both CCU and CCS, that is the carbon capture and utilization, and carbon capture and storage, they require distinct technologies, processes, and industry focus. However, utilization at its core, it promotes circularity and also the resource efficiency, while CCS options are mainly linear systems that perpetuate the fossil carbon economy. Now, while we are talking of CCU, it not be a silver bullet, but it is an important option, because with all other pathways, we have to transition to a circular economy and move away from fossil carbon. With renewable energy expected to play a lead role in meeting global energy demand, and in the long run, CCU should stand out as an available option today to utilize waste carbon as also add value to it. Hence, circular carbon and adding value is what we are very eager and contributing towards it. So coming now to the decarbonization objectives, both CCU and CCS are necessary, and it's crucial to implement the right solutions for the right industry in the right place. Timing is also very, very critical. CCU, that is the carbon capture and utilization, is built on the principles of a circular economy, and it also addresses concerns about the scope 3 emissions, particularly relevant to various organizations and brands that are striving to meet their decarbonization goals. Now, where do we play a part? So coming to a little bit of an introduction of our company, Lanzatech. So we operate at the intersection of energy, climate, and biotechnology. We have our gas fermentation technology, and with that, we are dedicated to supporting India's just energy transition as it endeavors to decarbonize and create a sustainable future. Now, a little bit about our technology. Lanzatech's technology can recycle carbon and carbon dioxide both that already exists above ground to produce fuels, chemicals, and materials of daily use, thereby reshaping our carbon economy. And the feedstocks that we can use could be industrial off gases, various industrial off gases, agricultural residues, municipal solid waste, and also particularly waste carbon dioxide, which Subodhji was also mentioning in his inaugural address. And by using those, what could be the products? The products could be ethanol, its various downstream chemicals, converting them into materials of our daily use, also chemicals like isopropyl alcohol, MEG, and a very important one as of today is also sustainable aviation fuel. So now it is evident that locally sourced and above ground carbon can not only revitalize local economies by creating jobs and attracting investments, but it can also take care or diminish the reliance on energy imports. So this gives the economies like ours, like India's, control over the material and energy production, ultimately enhancing the security part, which we are always talking about, domestic energy security. Now, one of the key aspects is decarbonization, and it is a business imperative, and it is also very important for the regional perspective. So CCU should be promoted in sectors like chemical and aviation, which are challenging because of hard to abate sectors, and also where circularity is important. It's not only important, it's essential. So while we are talking about utilization, CCU, it is worth noting that the utilization value chain, it has the potential to provide economic routes from waste to ethanol, jet fuel I think some the sensors in our rooms are quite active now. Sorry, now coming back to light. So what I was mentioning is that the utilization value chain has the potential to provide economic routes from waste to ethanol, jet fuel, high value chemicals, and that represents a market opportunity of over $1 trillion. And that is why we believe we can not only recycle carbon, but also add value to it. So we believe that waste carbon feedstocks, technologies to convert waste carbon into values and circular business models will be the fundamental to achieving the climate net zero goals. And with our technology, we are committed to facilitating that. Now coming a bit about the policy frameworks, noting mostly about India. So we strongly believe that the policy framework should avoid being overly prescriptive, but allow all the sustainable solutions to contribute fairly to the goals that we are setting up for the country. And given the scale of our problem, we cannot afford to pick winners or losers mainly at this point in time. We must avoid the risk of letting the perfect be the enemy of the good, because then it can lead to inaction. We must be cautious not to become very much focused with a single approach, that we neglect the ideas that could contribute to collective success. Now, coming to several focus on technologies that are available, we have to focus on technologies that can not only use waste and residues, including that we mentioned maybe a couple of minutes back about the various wastes available in the region, but also to develop the rural communities and creating green tech jobs for the future. We believe that projects based on our CCU technologies, such as Lanzatech's projects with MRPL and IOC, which involves both biomass, agricultural residues on one side, and also refinery off gases, and thus waste CO2 gases in India, we can demonstrate.
उसमें आपको बेचना है, ये क्या मालूम मैं वो आप अपना रिप्लेसमेंट वैल्यू पकड़ो, रिप्लेसमेंट वैल्यू नहीं, वो ये जो पकड़ा है ना, वो हमारा बेसिस में रिप्लेसमेंट वैल्यू ही जो भी आपने किया है ना वैल्यू.
Is this comment related to me? I'm sorry, I'm getting a sound now.
No, somebody had unmuted his mic, so I think I have muted him now. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And it's important because I'm coming to the last part of my address. Yeah. So lastly, I think it is important to emphasize that both CCU and CCS, they incur cost. But in that cost in the case of utilization, value is also created. So encouraging both approaches is crucial for us to achieve the necessary deep cuts in emissions, requiring continued momentum with investment and policy support for the massive deployment of these technologies. Now, there are various newer innovations that enhance this implementation of clean energy solution, and ours is one such. Coming to one important part, that is the green hydrogen part of it, the advantage of renewable power and promising prospects of green hydrogen. It has also been highlighted these days with the recent budget of 2024. It can further expedite the recycling of waste carbon to strengthen our circular economy. And our Lanzatech technology can also take in carbon dioxide and green hydrogen and then convert into various value-added products, including ethanol and some other products that I already mentioned ahead. Now, it's crucial to broaden our perspective on decarbonization beyond the energy or fuel sector, because we need to consider non-energy sectors as well as like chemicals and products in our daily lives. Several of the products that we use in our daily lives come from fuels, petro route, and that is where we have the ability to convert that and recognize the role of carbon and bioeconomy in these areas. I believe the Indian Federation of Green Energy is well positioned to bring collective wisdom, capability, innovation, research, and development, and the technology scale-up experience together to expand these supplies of sustainable ethanol and indigenous sustainable aviation fuel industry as a part of its journey towards energy transition. Lastly, in conclusion, I believe CCU presents an opportunity that many of us may not have imagined so far, thus an integrating biotechnology with the energy transition to build the industries of tomorrow and create significant new economic opportunities. eager to discuss more on this topic, and I believe Lanzatech is keen to participate in supporting such opportunities. The IFGE can lead the way in transforming this journey. Thank you all for listening to my address.
Thank you, Mr. Swadhin. So before I move to the next speaker, I request participants, if they have any questions, they can put it in the chat box, so that at the end, also mention to whom the question is addressed and give your introduction while posting it on the chat box, so that at the end we can take those questions and direct those to the concerned speaker. So I move to Mr. Yash Agarwal, who is the co-founder of Carbonetics Carbon Capture. He has spent 5 years in researching software systems and AI applications in Silicon Valley. So Yash has been using his research into AI-driven designs, using solutions which can form the bedrock of our novel carbon capture solutions. So over to Mr. Yash Agarwal.
Thank you, Mr. Kunju. Just a quick question. I think the screen share is disabled. I'm not able to share my screen. If you can double check.
I will make you co-host so that you can.
Understood.
Yeah.
So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mr. Kunju, for this introduction. And thank you for all the previous presenters. Thank you. Presenters for shedding light on the various utilization technologies that carbon capture has been able to proliferate to. I would like to welcome you to a survey of CO2 capture technologies and the role of machine learning and artificial intelligence that AI is eager to play a role in this institution. I'm Yash Agarwal. I'm the co-founder of Carbonetics. We are a pioneering startup in the field of carbon capture. So the primary mission for Carbonetics is to decrease the cost of capture, which facilitates the proliferation of this technology. As we saw from previous presenters, that there is no future without captured carbon. Much of our very, very key industries are dependent on carbon emissions for our growth. Today, I'm thrilled to share with you the innovative technologies and strategies that Carbonetics has been able to utilize to further the goal of sustainability. Let's move on to a survey of CO2 separation technologies. We can broadly categorize these technologies in 4 aspects. Number 1 is pressure swing, which includes chemical and physical solvents. Number 2, we have a pressure swing mechanism to capture and release CO2. These include metallic oxide frameworks and traditionally molecular seals. The last 2 are the membrane separation technology and the cryogenic technology. We at Carbonetics have chosen to work on the chemical solvent separation, since it's a relatively mature separation technology, while having several key areas of innovation, which we will delve into in the next slide. So let me give you a quick overview of Carbonetics chemisorption process. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, it's a mature and a robust technology. As we have seen or heard from various presenters, that India has a monumental goal in front of it to be net zero by 2070. Currently, India's emissions stand at 2.4 billion tons of CO2 emitted. So we have to either abate those emissions or capture the carbon dioxide. This technology also helps or is perfectly situated to capture large quantities of CO2. So we have a big task ahead of us, and we need technology that can help us achieve that big goal. One more very, very important aspect that was considered was the relatively low baseline cost of capture. So the off-the-shelf carbon capture plants in the market, they already are fairly mature and offer a low cost of capture. While being a mature technology, we have been able to identify key areas of innovation, namely heat integration, waste heat recovery, advanced capture media, integrated data intelligence capabilities, maintenance optimizations, and optimized plant design, whether it be making it smaller or building standard products that can be retrofitted to mostly any industry available in the market. I would also like to quickly go over the capture process that carbonetics imply. On the right side, you can see a diagram wherein an industry is emitting CO2-rich flue gas from the smokestack. Now, before entering the core capture system, this gas is preconditioned to remove harmful chemicals to our system, which are NOx, SOx, and particulate matter. Once we treat the gas, it then enters the core system where it is reacted with proprietary solvents that carbonetics has developed over the years to selectively extract CO2, which is then fed back into the regeneration power to split the reacted CO2 and solvent. This results in a food grade CO2, which is 99.9% pure and is ideal for a wide variety of utilization technologies. Next, let's move on to how heat integration and usage of advanced solvents has helped carbonetics reduce the energy footprint of the process. So currently an off-the-shelf carbon capture plant consumes 3.6 gigajoules of energy per ton of CO2 capture. Out of this 3.6 gigajoules, 80% of that energy makeup is by thermal power. So our efforts are primarily based on reducing the load fraction for the thermal makeup, as well as at the same time reducing the total energy demands. So as you can see from the benchmark, by applying waste heat recovery systems, we have been able to decrease the total energy demand to 2.4 gigajoules, which is a 25% reduction, and increasing the load fraction of electrical energy by 5% to 25%. Furthermore, using specialized solvents and contactors, we are seeing benefits of over 50% in energy demand reduction, and thermal has been reduced from 80% to 66%. Now, everyone will be aware that electrical energy is more readily available by greener sources. So it becomes our imperative to dislodge this composition so that we are using more electrical. Let's move on to another promising technology called machine learning. So we at Carbonetics strongly believe in the promise of machine learning. We feel that it has proven in industry to provide insights that were previously thought impossible. And hereby we identify 4 avenues of where AI could play a pivotal role. Number 1 is solvent formations. So our AI model is able to suggest particular types of formulations that could help in reduction of regeneration energy, as well as pumping energy of some mechanical equipment, thereby reducing the energy usage. The AI also is able to understand the complexities of a car capture system to model a digital twin. That digital twin provides the right kind of agility that is required to decrease the capex cost. One of the major hindrances to the proliferation of capture tech is the capex cost. So based on these two, there is a side effect wherein we are reducing the amount of energy that is being used. So it helps keep these carbon capture plants environmentally sustainable as well. Lastly, and not the least, we have maintenance optimizations. So we have a predictive maintenance system which essentially allows for the maintenance windows to be determined in advance, thereby reducing the load on the operators, as well as improving the uptime performance of plants. Namely, I would like you to introduce Omnisense, which is our digital twin and predictive maintenance platform. So it allows for a real-time monitoring of key parameters using the digital twin that is modeled to the as in comparison to the real plant. It helps us determine and plan maintenance windows. So you are effectively reducing the number of maintenance windows, also making them shorter. One more side effect of a digital twin is to be able to test out various engineering operations before applying them to a real plant. So that reduces the feedback loop much more. And lastly, we are able to assimilate trends and contexts across the portfolio of carbon capture to issue recommendations to make the plant even more stable. We at Carbonetics also understand that this is not going to be, Rome was not built in one day. So it is going to take considerable amount of effort and time, but we are happy to say that we are currently at level 3 of AI implementation and usage in the carbon capture plant, whereby an operator is presented with integrated key metrics in real time, along with the context and past trends, which helps the operator make decisions that are accurate in the shortest amount of time. We are currently working on level 4, which will be able to provide recommendations of how to tackle a potential problem in the plant, as well as to improve the efficiency of the plant. Of course, our work doesn't stop there. We have the entire comprehensive automation that is on the roadmap. Unfortunately, I don't have the timeline for that, because that for us is a North Star. So this level 5 automation will allow different plants situated in different areas to talk to one another, to share data, and to also gather intelligence from each other. From all of these technologies, Carbonetics is proud to introduce IGNI-1, which is our mobile testing platform. It has been designed through the power of machine learning by simulating millions of plant designs. It represents the operation of a real plant, which essentially is a demo of the technological capabilities of Carbonetics. It is integrated with our predictive maintenance platforms. And more importantly, it is a self-sustaining system. So it does not require us to hinder or alter the sensitive thermodynamics of existing industries. It can simulate the gas profile to demonstrate the capability of carbon capture. All in all, it guarantees that the proposed performance by Carbonetics is based on real and credible data. Hereby, I would like to thank everyone for your time, and I hope you found this talk insightful. I would be very, very happy and eager to take your questions.
Thank you, Yash, for highlighting this aspect of AI for carbon capture. So I now move on to Dr. Narendra Kumar Agnihotra. He is the Deputy Manager R&D and Innovation, HPCL Mittal Energy Limited, and he will be speaking on role of carbon capture, utilization and storage in refinery. So Dr. Agnihotra. Dr. Agnihotri.
Thank you, IFGE, for inviting me for this good lesson of webinar on the carbon capture and utilizations. I want to present something, but I think the host is disabled participant, so that's why
I'll make you a co-host.
Yeah, so that would be fine.
Now you can make the presentation.
Yeah. Can you see the slides?
Yeah, we can. You need to maximize it. Yes, now it's okay.
So I am Narendra Kumar and working in HPCL Mittal Energy Limited. And here I'm just looking the what is the role of the carbon capture, utilization and storage in refineries, because oil and gas sector is one of the major CO2 emitter. Producer we cannot say, but emitter we can say. But by renovating the CO2 into the value-added products, the sustainable growth can achieve the momentum of cleaner environment and maybe the Indian economies also. So that is because carbon is a very old molecule and everybody knows about the CO2. But the very few people has touched this earlier, but now it is the necessity for the environment and for even the industrial people also, how they can renovate the CO2 into the high value chemicals, where they can make a sustainable growth as well as increase their revenue in this side. So first the question came out, why do we need the carbon capture? So if we can look the fossil fuel based CO2 is around 37 billion tons in 2023 globally, and the average global atmospheric level is around 419 ppm. So the CO2 level is increasing day by day, and because of this, a lot of calamities is coming out, a lot of droughts come out, and a lot of, because everyone is suffering from this one. But still, we are in the good position. We are not into at that level where we cannot sustain for the long time. So maybe if we are not doing what we are doing as a business as usual, in the maybe in the after 50 or 70 years, nobody can. The planet is not is a living place. So here, the industry people should think about it, how they can contribute to reduce the CO2. If we are talking about the industry wise, the power, cement, and oil and gas, steel, these are the major CO2 emitters. The power is the first one of them because the coal is using, and if we are talking about the cement and oil and gas, but in terms of the India, we need all these things because we are in the emerging economies and we require all these things. We cannot compete with the US or maybe Europe because they are already developed. So India required all these things. So that's why we want each and everything. So in this regard, for sustainable development, we required how to minimize this CO2. So at least we can sustain, and our next generation will come and they can also proud of us. Okay, they have already done all of things. So India is emitting about 2.8 billion ton of CO2 in 2022, and it is increasing day by day. And because we in the globally we have a limited resources, so how we can use this CO2 into the another high value chemicals, which allow us to for the longer time of we are using the fossil fuels. So this is the some scenario why we need the carbon capture. We are going for the again the solution how to tackle this problem. So like if we can if we are doing the business as usual, ostrich like behavior, then there is no need. The environment is polluting and day by day we are facing the problem. Secondly, we can change our lifestyle also, behavior of the people also, so our footprint can be reduced. Third, if the government can support on the carbon trading side, okay, if they can put some policies on this side, they can make a policies they support for sustainable carbon tax, carbon premium price on the pricing on the products. So at least some relief for the industry, because industry is emitter and they can also find out the solution also. So where we can reduce the CO2, because we need each and everything, every petrochemical, fossil fuels, everything we require, because due to urbanization in India and growth and population is increasing, so we need each and everything. And maximum things are we are importing from China and US and other countries. So we have to think about it, and the government should support on this side how they can promote this carbon pricing and in a sustainable way, because just putting the carbon tax is increasing the inflation and it is not the solution. So the final things has come out in the carbon capture and utilization, because utilization is one of the things. Carbon capture is, I think, there is a lot of technologies available, and it is a mature stage because a lot of existing product is available. So the utilization is the new things has come out because the carbon CO2 is a very stable and very tough molecule, and converting and renovating this CO2 into the other chemicals is required a lot of heat, a lot of energy, a lot of investment is required. So here the technology R&D's peoples are much more putting in their efforts how they can renovate the CO2 to high value chemicals which is required for the human beings and our basic needs. So that's the carbon capture and utilization can be the promising solution, and it's my belief that also it would be the promising solution in the future also, because without carbon we cannot live. So we have to manage the carbon in such a way that we can reutilize or reuse of this or recycle this CO2 and make a new different type of chemicals or different type of products which can be. But one of the things, the technological challenges is there, and secondly the commercial viability, because if the industry people is talking about, they always look the commercial viability even in the number of people also, because nobody want to pay everybody is looking for the low cost leadership, so nobody want to pay the higher cost even on the same in the commodity products also. So the cost is one of the major things where we can think about it, how the commercial viability can be come out with the advancement of the technology or advancement of the process optimization, all these things. So here are the some scenario of how the industries can capture, because industry is one of the major polluter or emitter of the CO2. So these are the some sources where the CO2 is normally come out from the industries, and the pre-combustion captures, post-combustion capture, oxy-fuel combustion. So these are the some processes where the major CO2 is emitting in the environment. And we need to look out how this CO2 can be captured, and then storage can be the solution, but it is not the long-term solution, because after storing, maybe the leakage problem, some other problem, it's again into the environment. So this recycling and reusing of the CO2 is the only solution, what I believe on that side. So these are some scenario where the industries is capturing the CO2 in the major chunk, which is directly going to the environment. And oxy-fuel is combustion is one of the major thing, because in the major furnaces and major processes we are using the air, where the oxygen is around 21% and nitrogen is around 78%. So major of the things is come out as a NOx and NOx form. So we have to use the pure oxygen where the NOx quantity can be come out. Maybe today the CO2 is the problem, tomorrow NOx would be the problem. So we have to think about it, how the oxy-fuel combustion can be optimized, and where our NOx and other gases should not go into the environment. So these are the some scenarios. If you are talking about the CO2 emission from the sector, so as you know, the power and cement industry is one of the major polluter, and oil and gas is the third major emitter of the CO2. So these are the some scenario where the CO2 concentration is available in the states and flue gas, where the purity of the CO2 can be captured from the different industry. And if you are talking about the India, the industry is around 31% of CO2 emitter, and our previous speaker is already told around 125 million tons of CO2 oil and gas refineries, oil and gas sector is emitting. So that is a very good amount of CO2 we are emitting into the environment. So we have to think about it, how we can capture maximum of this one, at least 90% or 95%, and utilize that for it. If you're looking about the refineries and petrochemical CO2 emissions, so the major process, the hydrogen is one of the things where we are releasing around 9 to 11 tons of CO2 per ton of hydrogen by the natural gas route. If we are going into the coal-based route, then maybe it is around 15 to 18 tons of CO2 per ton of hydrogen. Similarly, if we are going into the petrochemical, ethylene, ethanol, ethylene oxide, phenyl chloride. So why I am just focusing on the petrochemicals? Because petrochemical is the need of in the future, and our urbanization, modern life required a lot of petrochemicals. And in India, we are importing maximum of the petrochemicals and chemicals, which should be stopped in the future. So our economy and our development, India's development agenda should be the same side. So where we can use these petrochemicals and develop in our own country. So this is the scenario on this side. If we are talking about the technology, because Yash is already mentioned in this side in this slide, so these are some technological options which is already available, and this chemical absorption is very mature, and a lot of companies are already using, because in a urea plant, our CO2 can be utilized into the urea, so they are capturing the CO2 from their own plant, so for production of hydrogen. And a lot of solvent is there, but there are some challenges is there, like for regeneration time, that a lot of heat is required, and solvent efficiency is not so much high, and a lot of water quantity is also required. So some challenges there, but it's still a commercial technology, and it is available at a commercial scale, and already use the CO2 capturing from the chemical absorption and using in the production of different type of chemicals. Similarly, adsorption from the solid sorbent, this is also one of the promising technology, and it is already used in the small scale, not in the very big scale, but at the medium size scale, it is already used. And similarly, here also the activated carbon, metal oxides, and polymeric and amine-based CO2 sorbent is available, which efficiency is high, and they are capturing a lot of this one. But again, the regeneration required a lot of energy. That is also the one of the constraint. Cryogenic separation also required, because the temperature should be low, around 100 to 135. and it is required extensive heat, extensive energy. But the POT should be around highly 99, more than 99% POT can be achieved from the carbon separation. So membrane separation technology is little bit the I cannot say the new, but
you will have to be a bit fast.
okay. So, so separation technology and the direct air capture is also one of the technology which is recently in the use, or very few small plant is there. If you are talking about the potential of the storage, so if you look the Indian map, so where a lot of CO2 emitter is there, and there is a very small around 3.4 gigatons of CO2 storage potential is there, and there are some theoretical CO2 capacity is there. So we have a very limited storage capacity. So that's why we have to think about the utilization. And if you are talking about the economics of the CO2 capturing, so it is around different technologies have different capturing technologies. The dollar per tons, if it is around 40 to 20 or 20 to $80 per tons come out from different technologies, and the CO2 concentration is also one of the major sector where we can put the CO2 capture in a cheap and commercial way. If we are can scaling the resolve the problem, so if you look at the graph, that it can solve the problem, because if we are going to the commercial scale, the scale should be high, so the cost of the CO2 capture can be go down, and it can be commercial viable by capturing this one. If we are talking about the existing of commercial applications, so because it is CO2 is not the new things, it is already available in the environment from long time and from the process side. So already existing process available where the CO2 is captured and converting into the high value chemicals. If you look soda ash, pharmaceutical industry, food beverages, urea plant is already proven in this site, electronics and refrigeration industry. So commercialization is already available, but we have to think about the new things, so that how the new diversification for the portfolio of the refiners can use, because a lot of other chemicals also can be converted to the CO2 to, like formic acid, ethanol, salicylic acid, polyols, which is used for polyurethane, polycarbonate. So these are some high value chemicals which can be converted to from the CO2, as one of the feedstock is the CO2. So that can be think about it, and it can give the immense revenue generation if we are moving in this side. If we are talking about the emerging technologies, so methanol, polymers, formic acid is already in the some of them is commercial scale, some is the technology is proven, some of them is already in the small scale. So these are the lot of advancement is already going on, and some of the major pillars already available in this side. They are working on this side. CO2 to liquid fuel is one of the lab scale thing which is required more boost. So at least aviation fuel and other things can be converted CO2 into the fuel, e-fuel, which is the more economical viable for the industry and for the environment also. If you're talking about so this is my presentation. So the conclusion, if you can think about the climate change is the global concern, and it is caused by the GHG emission, specifically from the industrial CO2 emission. One of the major reason is that, and we need to take action to reduce the carbon emission by capturing, utilization, energy efficiency, and renewable energy, because energy efficiency and renewable energy can play an important role for converting or renovating the CO2 into the high value chemicals. Similarly, the carbon capture and utilization is a promising approach, and it will reduce the CO2 and make a clean environment for with sustainable growth. We have to more focus on the development of the emerging technology, because without technology development, we cannot achieve the viability of the product, and we cannot achieve the a new product which is required for the human being. So that's why the technological advancement should be required. Similarly, the premium pricing of CO2 based products should be there. So at least it will promote the CO2 utilization to the high value products, or maybe there's some other products also. Even the company should think about the internal carbon pricing also to become a commercial viable, to become a techno-commercial viable of the product and projects. And finally, the change of the industrial emissions behavior also. So the industry should think about how they can change their behavior by improving the existing efficiencies, low carbon fuels they can implement on this side, and new technologies and take a little bit of risk also, so they can get a premium in the future. So this is the conclusion. So thank you for this one.
Thank you, Mr. Agnihotri. So it's a great honor and privilege for us that Dr. V.K. Saraswat, a world-renowned scientist, former chief of DRDO, chief scientific advisor to Indian Ministry of Defense, and presently the member of Niti Aayog and Chancellor of Jawaharlal Nehru University is with us. So we'll have, the opportunity of listening to him and the kind of work Niti has done for carbon capture under his leadership. So we also thank him for, patiently listening to each one of the, speakers. He joined right from the beginning and was, making notes of each presentations were made, that shows his keen interest towards this subject. So without wasting time, I will request Dr. V.K. Saraswat to please deliver his keynote address.
Thank you very much. I'm indeed very happy to be part of this seminar today and impressed by the presentations made so far by various speakers. And in fact, it is going to be a bit of repetition when I give my presentation because most of the issues with respect to carbon capture utilization have been addressed. I'll give some historical background. Niti Aayog started working on carbon capture utilization and storage about 1.5 years, maybe approximately 2 years back, when one of the first report Niti Aayog came up along with the Distillery Energy on the CCUS, which was the basic document presented to the government of India for coming out with the various options with respect to the policies and other technological framework which would be needed for taking CCUS forward. So I'm going to give you an overview of what we have done so far and where do we stand. I start with the my presentation is visible, I hope.
Yes, it is visible, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir.
So as far as my slides are not changing, yeah, I just made a presentation about CCUS to the G20. So I'm taking the first slide from there. And I would like to mention what was the impression which the various countries have been having, that India as a developing country is responsible for majority of the emissions. So I tried to bring that myth down, and I mentioned that the global level at that time, I'm talking of 2 years back, was 410 ppm of carbon dioxide, which the recent speaker just now talked about 419 ppm is a 2023 figure. Now, if you look at the G20 nations, 75% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions, they are responsible. Whereas the global per capita emissions are in the region of 6.3 tons of CO2, again a 2020 figure. The figure what you are seeing are the red marks, which indicate the highest emissions. So you can see India is still yellow, and most of the European and American countries are responsible for the kind of emissions which are taking place. In terms of numbers, India is only 2.4 tons of CO2 equivalent, which is less than 40% of the world average. And between 1850 and 2021, we have contributed only about 4% of that. Now, as far as India's energy mix is concerned, these numbers are known to many of you. We are largely dependent on coal, which is about 47% of our energy supply. And gas is 7%, nuclear is only 2.1%. So total fossil fuel-based energy is about 741 million tons of oil equivalent, which is about 84%. Rest of the systems like nuclear, hydrogen, solar, wind, and which is a non-fossil, is only about 143 million tons of oil equivalent, which is 16% as on today, which is about 885.2 is the total installed capacity. So this is the scenario as far as the energy is concerned. But in terms of emissions, what are the sectors which are actually responsible for creating this situation of high carbon dioxide or other emissions, greenhouse gas emissions? So you can see power production is one of the highest, which is about 1011 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. Then comes industry, which is what we're going to discuss, 956, transport about 358, and others. And this is also following the curve what we have from 1990, that our GDP has gone up by more than 400%. And similarly, the production-based emissions as well as consumption-based emissions per capita also have gone up by more than 300%. So that is the kind of numbers which we have today. Now, global carbon emissions, if you look at it, and what is the strategy if we have to follow the kind of 1.5 degrees Celsius scenario for the climate control, which all of us have agreed in globally and on all international platforms. The global scenario, as per the predictions made so far, is that to bring down by about 36.9 gigatons of CO2 per year, the following strategies will have to be followed, so that by 2050 we have this figure. Renewables, which is including power and direct usage, should be about 25%. Energy conservation and efficiency improvement should be about 25%. Electrification in the end use sector, instead of using fossil fuels, if we can use electricity, it would be 20%. Hydrogen and its derivatives about 10%. Again, the topic of today's discussion, carbon capture, utilization and storage about 6%. And bioenergy and carbon capture and utilization, if we can bring in, that's about 14%. And in the Indian scenario, the same figure with various distribution of CCUS, green hydrogen, not fossil, can be about 1.4 gigatons of carbon dioxide per year. That is the kind of thing we can have. You all know what we have committed today. Our Honorable Prime Minister has made commitments. That is, we will have 50% in installed power capacity of non-fossil by 2030, 45% reduction in the emission intensity by 2030 compared to 2005 level, an additional carbon sink of the order of 2.5 to 3 billion tons of CO2 equivalent through additional afforestation and tree cover, and that also by 2030, and ultimately achieving the net zero by 2070. That is what we have it. But all this is feasible if we can really take account of what is our future energy demand scenario in 2047. The date of 2047 is basically linked with our mission of Viksit Bharat by 2047. You have seen that the country's energy demand has tripled over the last 3 decades, and most of it, traditional biomass is falling. People are not using any more cow dung and so on for using their heat requirement or cooking requirement. Coal and oil retain dominant position. In 2023, if you look at the energy supply, we are about 9,647 terawatt hour. And if we continue with the business as usual, then by 2047, this energy supply would be about 21,000. And if you go for the net zero scenario, then it will come down to about 20,572. And similarly, on the demand side, which is at the moment about 6,978 terawatt hour, we will go by 22.4 times, which will be about 16,855 terawatt hours by 2047, and 2.1 times in the net zero scenario. So that is the way supply and demand will happen. And how does the share of coal will happen? A lot of predictions have been made by various think tanks, various analysts, various agencies which are working on this. India is presently 49% 2023 coal in primary energy supply. Business as usual case with the reductions taking place would be about 37% by 2047. And net zero also, we will have about 29% energy coming from the coal. Only thing is the utilization of fossil fuel and coal will see a paradigm shift aiming towards increased efficiency and cleaner approaches in line with our net zero commitments. So the strategy which has been actually identified today is only go for industrial decarbonization, use clean coal technologies, use carbon capture, utilization, storage, use alternate fuels like methanol, ethanol, ammonia, or for baseload power and also clean power, use nuclear energy, and particularly nuclear energy should be with the small modular reactors which can be factory manufactured and set up into industrial units like the DJ generator sets today. That will be the kind of commercialization activity we should take on. Commercial energy storage we have to look at, and natural gas, low carbon hydrogen. That is our another option. Of course, renewables will be our major penetration, but more than that, sustainable mobility in that format, what we are talking of, e-mobility and fuel cells and reformers and so on. So CCUS will play a pivotal role. Many of you have already mentioned in the sectors, like because it is suited for existing fossil fuel-based power plants and industrial units, decarbonization in difficult to abate sector. We can have direct carbon dioxide capture from atmosphere. We can do variety of applications like methanol manufacturing, chemicals using the carbon dioxide capture. A lot of details were given by the previous speaker, so I'm not going into details. But it can be integrated with all the plants like power, cement, iron, steel, chemicals, gasification units, refineries, even hydrogen production, and direct air capture. Now, it is seen that if you use CCUS in the power sector, in the industrial sector, and in the other sectors, you will be able to reduce globally about 50% of the emissions which can be addressed by CCUS. And in the Indian scenario, the same number is about 63.86, which is by and large from the power 42.3, industry about 12.9, and other units about 8.44. So that is a kind of possibility. These are the potential of CCUS for India is concerned. Now, this has been explained by many speakers earlier. The basic process is carbon dioxide source identification, carbon dioxide capture and separation from power plants, steel, cement, gasification, refineries. Then you do the purification, remove all the SOx, NOx, and particulate matter, and go for compression. After compression, you transport. And then after transport, there are two possibilities: technologies for storage, which is enhanced oil recovery, enhanced CBM recovery, deep saline aquifer, basalt rocks, and solution for utilization, which is large numbers were indicated like chemicals, building materials, polymers, food and beverages. And of course, there is a natural sink also. For example, forests, oceans, and soil, and the enhanced natural processes like using a biochar or enhanced weathering that can be done. So these are some of the possibilities of doing the utilization. I think the previous speaker, Mr. Avnotra, also discussed about the carbon dioxide capture positions, how we can do that. So I'll skip this slide. Basically, the whole idea is it can be done in various stages of the combustion, decombustion, post-combustion, and oxy-combustion. And idea is to clean up the gas, remove the nitrogen as much as possible, and so that CO2 is about 90% in the CO2 capture, and you can go for the CO2, which can be recycled in the combustion cycle also. The methods also were identified by some of the other speakers, where we are talking of physical solvent-based systems using amines, non-aqueous blends, and ionic liquids, which are called the solvent-based absorption, as we call it, where you take the feed gas, which is passed through a solvent, and then you get carbon dioxide captured there, and you get other components outside. Whereas chemical solvent will be, we have a capture chemical, where feed gas and their components, so you get it like. Amine-based absorbents, metal salt, zeolite, which was also discussed by, I think Mr. Yashpal mentioned about it. So that's the absorption process, and the cryogenic separation, which was also mentioned. I won't go into details of that. So as far as the utilization is concerned, the proven technologies are enhanced oil recovery, conversion of green ammonia to green urea, that is possible. Food and beverages, use of captured carbon dioxide in carbonated drinks, dry ice, modified atmosphere packing. And the new technologies are like now people are talking of converting carbon dioxide into concrete bricks, lightweight aggregates, and so on. Mineralization and chemicals like methanol, ethanol, which is not new now, it is becoming almost known technology. We can also talk of synthetic fuels. People talked about aviation fuel. I think this is also possible. And large number of polymers which can be built like this, like even we can talk of graphene, bioplastics, and polyether carbonates which can be done through this. So these technologies are feasible today, and they should be tried out as the utilization methods. Now, what is the scope of as far as storage potential in concern in our country? This map indicates that northern region, we have the storage potential of about 7.5 gigatons of carbon dioxide. In the western region, which is the highest, it's about 388.9 gigatons of carbon dioxide, because we have a lot of basalt rocks there. Eastern region is about 80.5, northern eastern region about 47, and southern region about 76.3. So we have a huge potential as far as the storage of carbon dioxide is concerned. It's a question of now doing what is called mapping. The source and sink mapping has to be done, and that should be our priority as far as the carbon capture and storage are concerned. Now, where do we stand with respect to the Indian initiatives? I think already after a lot of work which was done by NITI Aayog and many agencies have taken up, Tata Steel has got a 5 tons per day CO2 capture from blast furnace gases commissioned at TSL Jamshedpur. They have used amine-based absorption, and they have a future plan to reuse the CO2 within the steel value chain. And some numbers I can give you, because there were some questions in the chat box about the cost, and there were some very horrifying numbers which were given by earlier speakers, that the cost is in the region of $100 per ton and more. I want to say that even Tata's, which is a very small plant, the Indian rupees is about $3,500 to 4,000 rupees per ton of carbon dioxide, which is in the region of 43 to 53. The JSW has set up 100 tons per day plant from gas DRI plant commissioned at Salab. They use potassium carbonate and liquid carbon dioxide used in the beverage industry. NTPC has done a pilot plant 20 tons per day. This was again in collaboration with NITI Aayog, where did the CO2 capture plant for fertilizer plant capture CO2 for urea making. And their CO2 capture cost is only 2,740 rupees per ton of carbon dioxide, which is in the region of $35 per ton of carbon dioxide. And this falls in the category of low percentage of carbon dioxide in the flue gases, because generally the power plant flue gases do not have high percentage of carbon dioxide. So you can imagine that the numbers which were staggeringly high shown, they have to be taken with a pinch of salt. We should not get scared away by that kind of European and American database, which is being largely used by Indians for making our own estimates. So this has to be very carefully done. Present and future market potential for the CO2 utilization technologies. The two figures are indicated here. One is annual revenue in terms of dollars, which is given there. If you take strategic actions which have been identified, that is given by the dark green, and without strategic actions is indicated by the light green. So if you take concrete 2020 to 2030, we can get a revenue in terms of $10 billion to $60 billion. 2025, it can go to $50 billion to $200 billion, and 2030, it can be up to $400 billion. So that the bubble is increasing. Similarly, if you go for production of fuels, even 2020, it was 1 billion to 5 billion. And by the end of 2030, if you really work on all strategies, it can go up to $250 billion. If you manufacture aggregates, then 0.3 billion, because this technology is still maturing. And over a period of time, which is in the process now, it may go to up to $150 billion. Same thing is in the polymers. And methanol is a very easily available solution today, where I'm 100% certain that if we make carbon dioxide plus solar hydrogen, we'll be able to reach about 1 billion to 12 billion of green methanol, as we are talking about. So this is the revenue potential of these technologies. Only it's a question of using the right strategies at the right place. The global status of CCUS projects. There's a CO2 project on 244 million tons per annum of CO2 capture capacity, which is under development. 196 projects are in pipeline. 61 new CCS facilities have been announced recently. And globally, 30 operational CCUS facilities in 2022 with a capacity average about 42.6 million tons per annum. And in terms of market size, in 2021, it was $2,784 million. With a CAGR, it is likely to be 13.7% in the next 8 to 10 years. Key players who are actually engaged in this are given here: Aker, Exxon, Fluor, Mitsubishi, and so on. Basically, the driver is net zero. Everybody is looking at net zero. because once upon a time, CCUS was given up as a technology option. It's only in the last about 5 years that has resurrected itself, and India has played a major role in making it come out as far as the strategic pathway for reduction of carbon dioxide concerned. Present cost of capture methods, which share 75% of CCUS cost, is a net cost. So that is one of our major issues, how to reduce the cost of carbon capture. And I think the presentation made by Mr. Yash was very, very informative, because it was focusing on reducing the cost of carbon dioxide capture using the AI solutions. The tech funding and deals are soaring globally. CCUS funding reached nearly 1.1 billion in 2021. Funding to CCUS startups is expected to be more than triple in the coming years as industrial companies move to reduce emissions. These are indicators here. And with further acceleration, annual investment in CCUS expected to be about 120 to 150 billion by 2035. The revenue models are basically dictated by the carbon dioxide price, tradable CO2 certificates, which was also presented by one of the speakers earlier, tradable tax credits, funding source, emitters should fund, low carbon product users should fund, and of course taxation. Capital can be through the public grants and loans, emitter equity can be put, and even debt. Risk mitigation is one of the major things. The business element should take care of that in terms of long-term contracts. It cannot be only just a small one. Revenue guarantees should be provided, and price floor ceiling should be there for mitigating the risk. So these are some of the models which can be used for CCUS business. So the CCUS challenges and interventions, these are the last two slides, which are cost of capturing CO2 remain the largest cost, representing about 70 to 75% of the total cost of CCUS. Regulatory framework, permits, license for safety along CCUS value chain needs to be accelerated. All costs, capturing, transport, and injection vary according to the suitability of geology, terrain, and proximity of the industrial sector. How far it is from the source if you are taking it forward, because transportation costs are also prohibitive. Government supports in the form of tax credit may need to be assessed case by case. And governments need to support in building up the CCUS demonstration project. For this, ONGC and Oil India are working today with us to set up a pilot plant for capturing carbon dioxide and doing sequestration in some of the basalt rocks which are there in the vicinity region. This will be first of a kind in India, which will be taking the carbon sequestration as one of the pathways for carbon dioxide storage. I think the last two slides went somewhere. Why did it go? I do not know. But last slide is basically about the industrial challenges, commercial challenges, technologies and infrastructure are the barrier for the industrial scale of CCUS. And large investment in CCUS need to be accelerated with government supports for ensuring revenue from such investment. There needs to be a market for CCUS, carbon credit, carbon price has to be put in place. There is a requirement for policies and regulations. Global and regional policies need to work at speed to get all the carbon market workable. Products from carbon recycling will need to be marketable, aided by the government policies, and business models realizing independent financial institutions for CCUS fund regulation, like Carbon Capture Finance Corporation is one of my suggestions we should set up, which will be able to steer this whole process. And leaders need to develop strategies to create a carbon credit market across key geographies and incentivize private investors by attracting the financial forward. This is what I would like to share. Thank you very much for spending time with me. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you, Dr. Saraswat, for an elaborate, informative, and enlightening presentation. I must say you have covered each and every aspect of the subject. And last but not the least, you have also highlighted the recommendations which Niti Aayog, under your leadership, has suggested to government for policy formulation of CCUS. So kind of you, sir. I think you have another meeting to attend, so I will not hold you back. though everybody has, I can see comments appreciating the presentation which you made, and there are hardly any questions, but they have requested for your presentation to be shared, so which I will request you to please share with us. And I thank you again for participating and delivering the keynote address and making this presentation. So there's not any question addressed to you.
Question to me, I'm ready to answer before I leave.
Okay, so I think most of the things have already been covered. I don't see any questions except for the request that we need your presentation.
Sure.
That we'll share.
Presentation is available, no problem.
So we will not hold you, Dr. Saraswat. Thank you once again.
Sir, I have a question with your permission.
Yeah,
Rakesh from Reno Industries.
Yeah, please go ahead. So we can take one question.
Sir, one good news from our side is that we are already reached 70% non-fossil fuel energy. However, we have dependence on waste to energy plant for our upcoming unit at Halol. After attending these sessions today, I'm just wondering myself as to what are the low-hanging fruits for carbon capture that is technically feasible and economically viable.
The question is to me, I can give you an answer.
Sir, I would be blessed if you answer this because you have the best view on this.
So as on today, with the mature technologies and the cost figures which I mentioned with respect to the NTPC experience as well as the Tata experience, I personally believe that wherever there's a source of carbon dioxide, whether it's a low percentage or high percentage, I think the chemical absorption or physical absorption methods are the best technologies that can be used for capturing of the carbon dioxide. And while some of the speakers mentioned about Rectisol, Saxol and all that, I can only give you one feedback that with the help of IIT Delhi, Thermax and Niti Aayog's effort, today the complete technology for cleaning up the carbon dioxide from flue gases has been already set up. So, and this particular plant of NTPC have also used the amine process for absorption. So indigenous technology today for absorptions are available. Probably we don't have to go on to the import because some of these technologies which are offered by the foreign companies are prohibitively expensive. And that's why this figure, which was earlier indicated by one of the speakers, that goes very, very high. I want to tell you, if you use indigenous technology, which we have recently in the production of methanol from coal gasification, cleaning up the gas using this process, I think if you follow that, we will bring down the cost considerably. So I would request that if you have any waste to energy plant where CO2 is being done, please follow indigenous technology, use amine-based absorption. Choice of amines has to be based upon the composition of the flue gases, and you will be able to get a cost-effective solution.
Thank you very much, sir. We will definitely take this suggestion forward.
Dr. Saraswat, would you like to take one more question if you have time?
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, there is one question from L&T Energy Power. Mr. Punya Jain, he wants to ask you, presently as couple of pilot plants being set up for CCUS in thermal power plants, please throw some light on the commercial sale implementation plan of CCU plants for thermal power.
I gave you the example of NTPC, which is from the Singrauli thermal power plant, which they have used the flue gases from Singrauli thermal power plants, clean up the gases. They have used an amine process for absorption, and they have taken carbon dioxide and they have produced solar hydrogen, and CO2 plus hydrogen they are converting into methanol. About 10 tons per day of methanol is their production capacity. So the figures which I mentioned in my presentation belong to the real figures which have been actually encountered by the NTPC. So this is the real figure of $35 to $40 per ton of carbon dioxide. I think this is one example in India available. As far as global is concerned, I think you know that UK is going in a big way at the North Sea from taking from the steel plants the entire carbon dioxide and then going for sequestration. I think one of the international company, Equinor or somebody is, I forget the name, they are involved in doing the technology for that. So that's a global figure. I also gave you some details of what all is being done globally in terms of numbers. I didn't go into the names of the organizations for paucity of time, but I have the data. If you want to share, I can give it to you.
Right. Yes, we'd love to have those, details with us, sir. I don't see any other questions. There was one question to Lanzatech, which is directly being addressed by Mr. Banerjee. So I think if with your permission, sir, we'll close this conference. Thank you once again. And thank you all other panelists for sharing their presentations, views, and experiences on this platform. And all participants who have joined us today. Thank you all for participating, and we close this. And we'll definitely, if you have more questions, you can send it to us through email, and we can direct it to the speakers or panelists who were present today and get you the answers. Thank you, and this will be available on the YouTube channel also of IFGE. Thank you once again, and
thank you so very much. Thank you so very much.
Thank you,
Looking
Mr.
forward to
Banerjee.
more interactions because of this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you.